Stop lying to yourself. We're not white. We lack melanin. So take a moment, pause the video, and really look up what melanin does for the body and how it helps us be a part of the planet.
Hello guys, welcome once again to the channel. I hope wherever you are, you're having a great time. Now we have always seen this notion where whites tend to think that they are way better than black people. And some people have always said that blacks are people who are cursed. And in fact, if you look at the theories that have always been brought up when it comes to creation, they depict black people as people who are unfortunate in terms of how they were created or how they came into existence. But reality and history has shown that humanity began with black people. If you look at the archaeological findings from Britain, you find that the first Brit was a black person. So it really goes without saying that black people were the origin of humanity, as it may be said. And therefore, how is it that we find that now, in the long run, people who are the founding race of humanity are now considered as the people who are less superior or people who have no value? There are some whites who have spoken about this issue, and I like the angle that they have always been bringing. I came across some clips here of people talking about the essence of racism, why racism has existed, or what racism serves within the circles of white people. And the angle they were bringing was quite impressive. They are saying that whites are racist because they are jealous of blacks. Blacks have melanin, and this melanin is a rare pigmentation that whites could trade everything to have, but they just can't have it. And they are also giving connections of what melanin does to you to make you a superior being. So I want us to watch these clips because sometimes we tend to ask ourselves some questions that end up being very, very controversial. Let's watch the clips, then come back and share my thoughts in the end.
Now that you're back, tell me, we can't be out in the sun. We can't have the same relationship to the planet as those who have melanin. It's our inferiority, not supremacy, not superiority. It is our one inferiority. And then, of course, as any bully would do, when you feel inferior, you would make yourself appear superior by bullying someone to make them feel less than you, instead of finding out how you can be the best version of yourself so that you can be your own version of greatness. And that's all we have to do. There are all these systems for distribution of resources that are built based on our greed, our desire to get resources that other people have access to and we didn't. It's that simple. They're already built, and all we have to do is remove the desire for greed and control over those resources and become a sharing, humane people. The example exists in melanated folks. They don't treat us the way we treat them. They treat us better than we treat ourselves. So let's learn, let's enjoy the planet, let's stop all this foolishness, and let's support those with melanated skin so that we may learn how to be humane in our own way. Race for what?
Racism is about jealousy. If you think that's a reductive statement, please stick with me. When I say jealousy, I'm talking about insecurity, which is really what jealousy is, but I think it's easier to understand if I say insecurity rather than just jealousy. Because we know from appropriation that we are very jealous of other cultures. Why would we want to listen to the music, eat the food, wear the clothes, do the hairstyles, have everything, the language, but not give credit where credit is due and not uplift the people who created it? White people are so lost in feeling like they don't have a connection to culture, especially many of us who are very far removed from our European roots. And I think the need to fill that space and that insecurity of this lack of culture and lack of something to call our own is often filled with cultural appropriation and the idea that being white is superior. I was first introduced to this concept of racism being jealousy in college, and I can't trace it back to one particular scholar, but I would like to give credit where credit is due to that Black scholar. If you can find anything tracing it to one particular person, please leave that in the comments. I think it's important to think about racism in this way if we want to unlearn it. Because, as some people say who are non-monogamous, or anyone who's just working on their relationships, jealousy is an indicator that something is not quite right with us. It's an indicator of our insecurity and how we might be feeling. It's not about what our partner is doing or what someone on Instagram is doing with their life that makes us feel inadequate. It's about something going on inside. And I think we really need to interrogate that. What is it about people of color showing excellence, people of color maybe being more in touch with culture, people of color being more in touch with the environment, people of color making better food, and everything else that we envy? What does that trigger in us? And why do we have the need to put those people down? It's about jealousy. And if we can figure out that we're feeling that way and trace that feeling back to maybe some of our unconscious biases, I think it's a lot easier to start thinking about how can we unlearn that? How can I feel secure in my identity as a white person who has roots in maybe Italian and like other cultures, but like doesn't really feel connected to anything? How can I feel secure in myself to not want to put others down, whether that be racism or any other form of discrimination, or just plain hating on another woman because she's amazing? You know, I think this makes it seem like racism is very simple, but it also just helps us frame it in a way that's accessible to us. We know that dismantling racism starts with individual work, and personal growth is all about thinking about the hard things about yourself and the things and parts of yourself that you don't like. And jealousy is one of those things. No one wants to be jealous. It's an awful, awful feeling. And we don't want to admit that we're jealous. And we shy away from that, but it's something we can interrogate, and I think that is going to help us go a long way. Anyway, just my thoughts. Happy Juneteenth. I hopefully will speak about this more coherently in the future. Black Lives Matter.
I don't think people realize how exhausting it is to be Black everywhere. Not just in America, not just in the South. I'm talking globally here. Because wherever we go, there's a version of the same fight that's just waiting for us. And it's one thing to feel like a second-class citizen in your own country, but it's another thing entirely to realize the whole world sees you that way too. You ever hear people say, just leave, America's the problem? As if racism is something that you can outrun. As if anti-blackness is some sort of American export. So let me tell you something. In Brazil, which is the blackest country outside of Africa, police kill Black people like it's sport. But it's not just the cops, it's the beauty industry that sells skin bleach. It's the store owners that follow you. It's the neighbors that flinch when your child walks by. In the UK, you can speak perfect Queen's English, but still be denied housing, passed over for jobs, and told to go back to Africa like your birth certificate doesn't say Birmingham. In France, they don't need to say Black to criminalize you. They just hide it behind secularism. They ban your head wrap, regulate your natural hair, silence your protest chants, and when you speak up, they act like you're the problem. And the people? They'll clutch their bags, they'll ignore you in interviews, and whisper the N-word when they don't think that you understand French. In China, Black students were kicked out of housing during COVID, just for being African. But long before that, there were restaurant bans, fake job ads saying no Blacks, and videos mocking our features going viral with millions of likes. In India, you'll be fetishized on one corner and insulted on the next. And if you're African, they'll stare, laugh, and sometimes they'll spit on you. In Ukraine, when the war broke out, white refugees got seats, and black refugees got barricades. In Libya, we're still being sold in 2025. And nobody's storming embassies for that. Let that sit, because being black is not the issue. The world's relationship with blackness is. And here's what bothers me the most. They want our rhythm, but not our presence. Our slang, our dances, our music, our clothing. But not our humanity. They'll rock locks on a runway but call them ghetto at school. They'll say Wakanda forever and still scream monkey at the next black soccer player. They'll ask to touch your hair, or not even ask. They'll mock your nose, and then turn around and say that you're too sensitive. And don't even get me started on influencers. Black American culture gets ridiculed as loud or uneducated until someone else steals it for likes. We're told that we don't have culture by people that are dancing to our beats, speaking our slang, and wearing our clothes. We are everywhere, but still nowhere. Loved, but not protected. Seen, but never safe. So if you've been feeling it too, that quiet, aching exhaustion that comes from just trying to exist, you're not broken, you're not paranoid. You're black, in a world that's been trained to hate you. That hate lives in systems, but it also lives in people, in the stares, in the silence, in the smiles that tighten when you walk into the room. But here's what they can't erase. We are global, we are ancient, and we are surviving. From Accra to Atlanta, London to Kingston, we are still here. And the moment we stop letting borders divide us, that's the moment we become unstoppable.
You cannot convince me that racism isn't jealousy. You just cannot convince me. Racism is jealousy. I don't know why it's jealousy. I mean, I understand the jealousy part, but why turn it into racism instead of admiration, you know? But I think that's what jealous people do. You know, the inventors of racism really looked at literally everybody else around them and were like, all of you? All of you. Literally all of you, except us. And I guess they couldn't stand it. And I get that, because they looked around and they were like, so it's everything. It's the face card, it's the body, it's the genetics, it's the culture, it's the food, it's the clothing, it's your homelands, it's everything. It's your women. I'd be jealous too. I'm not gonna lie. I'd be jealous too. I don't know if I'd be heinous like most of those people, but I'd be jealous too, you know? So yeah, racism is jealousy. Highest form of admiration, I guess.
The way this country treats black women is rooted in absolute jealousy. Like, it all goes back to that jealousy factor. And when I say jealous, I mean that on every single front, from everybody. When we wear wigs and we put on lace fronts and stuff, y'all be like, oh, that's not your real hair. You're mad because we still look beautiful, regardless of if we're wearing our natural hair or if we're wearing hair that looks like yours, that you force us to wear. And then to feel so threatened by us that you pin black men against us is actually diabolical. It's diabolical. Y'all forced them to demonize femininity. And now we're in 2025 having to unlearn all of it.
Every time I heard black people talk about, why do they hate my skin? Why do they hate our skin? Why do they hate our skin, man? Man, I'm going to say this, man. They don't hate the skin. They hate what the skin represents. They don't hate the skin. They hate what the skin represents. They hate the skin because it's you. They hate the skin because it represents strength, it represents love, it represents peace, it represents the universe, it represents everything positive. It represents oneness, creation, creator. You feel me? It represents originality. It represents the diamond in the rough. It represents everything positive, man. So that's why they hate the skin, man. That's why they hate you. That's why it's jealousy. I don't think it's hate, it's jealousy. They know that your skin is not just a skin, it's a transmitter.
Please recognize that a lot of the anti-blackness directed towards Black Americans from foreign people of color derives from jealousy. See, to be Black American is to be marginalized and disenfranchised, but from a foreign perspective, you're marginalized and disenfranchised in America, which is the best place to be marginalized in, from a foreigner's perspective. I am from a foreign family. I've said this before and it bears repeating. My family is Jamaican. I'm mixed race. I was born in Montego Bay, Jamaica, emigrated to the United States when I was 5, and I am now a naturalized citizen. So in addition to growing up and being socialized in America and matriculating through the American public education system and the university system, I have that lived perspective in addition to the lived perspective of being raised by foreigners. Like a lot of the opportunities for advancement, for job placement, for obtaining a formal education that are here in America, that exist in America, are of course taken for granted by American citizens who are born here. These opportunities are unheard of in most parts of the world. For example, in Jamaica, the opportunities for employment, right? You can graduate from high school here in America and literally go work at Target or at the Dollar Tree or go learn a trade or something like that. It's not desirable. It's not what society wants you to do. You know, society says that you should be working in a corporate structure, but the opportunity at least exists. There's also opportunity for obtaining a 4-year college degree through the provision of student loans that are widely available to most eligible individuals, in addition to community college and junior college that's available to folks who wouldn't qualify for federal student loans, but who can work and put themselves through school and pay for tuition out of pocket. Those similar employment and educational opportunities do not exist in places like Jamaica, where you have to be born into a wealthy family to be able to afford a 4-year college degree, because there is no national student loan structure to pay for a university degree. There aren't as many places for employment that don't exist outside of like a hospital or the tourism industry, or if you're not related to a family member who works in like the HR department or the hiring department for a particular place of employment. For example, how I, as an American citizen, can walk into a Costco or a Walmart or a Target or something and be hired based on, you know, my experience or based on my knowledge or what have you. Those places don't exist in Jamaica. So being able to just walk into somewhere with a piece of paper and the ability to work and find that work, that itself, that opportunity is non-existent in most places in the world. So understand that foreign people of color who live in these places where opportunity is few and far between, unless you're born into the moneyed class or unless you're born into the noble class, look at Black Americans living in America and are envious and are jealous. And their thing is, well, what are you complaining about? You don't know anything about marginalization or what it truly means to be dispossessed or what it really means to be oppressed, because you're in America. You have all these opportunities, you have all these chances, you have justice, you have laws and discrimination laws that protect you. Those things don't exist where I'm coming from. So what's the big deal with you? And again, it's envy because, yeah, you're marginalized, but you're marginalized in America where you have a right to legal advice. You have a right to a speedy and fair trial. You have a right to be protected from unreasonable government search and seizure. You have discrimination laws that protect you. You know what I mean? Like you have all of these things that protect you that you're just born into just by accident of birth that I don't have in my own country. Mix that envy and jealousy in with the existing anti-blackness that pervades almost every society on the planet, and boom, you have activists and the Palestinian liberation movement being anti-Black and racist towards Black Americans. For my Black American brothers and sisters, understand that that's where a lot of the antipathy from other foreign people of color comes from. It's nothing, its basis is in jealousy and envy, and even though that sounds like an oversimplification, I promise you it's not. Again, I grew up in a foreign family, being raised by foreigners, living here in America, while at home I was being socialized as a foreigner, and then in public society and public schools that I was attending and jobs that I held, I was being socialized in American. As an American, I can tell you that perspective that I'm speaking from is absolutely valid. And one last thing, another perspective to add to this is that when you come to America as a foreigner, in addition to fighting white supremacy, in addition to fighting poverty, now you're fighting xenophobia, right? Now you're fighting the immigration system and having to spend tens of thousands of dollars, if you have it, and years matriculating through the immigration system in the US. Foreigners like myself who have to deal with the United States Center for Immigration Services, who have to worry about ICE, who have to worry about whether their green card needs to be renewed, who have to pay for the exorbitant fees that it costs to apply for citizenship, because citizenship is not automatically granted to folks just because you live here for X amount of years. It is something that you have to apply for. It costs thousands of dollars, and it takes years for your application to process. It's not an immediate, yes, congratulations, you're now a US citizen. They have to go through your entire immigration record from the very date you set foot on US soil to determine whether or not you're even eligible to be a US citizen. And all while that process is ongoing, you are experiencing xenophobia, you are experiencing struggling with your dual identity. On the one hand, you're not fully American, so you're not quite in with American crowds, but on the other hand, your family and your immediate network don't view you as being a full native of the homeland either, because now you live in America and you grew up here and you've been socialized here. So you struggle with those identity complexes and whatnot, all while you're waiting for the US government to turn around and say, okay, yeah, you can be here forever now, basically. My mom raised my sister and I while my mom and I were undocumented immigrants. My sister was born here, thank God, but my mom and I were undocumented immigrants for 15 years. Not because we came here illegally, not because we came here, you know, by subverting the process. We arrived with visas. My mother was married to my father, who was a Jamaican national, who was also a US citizen. So this process wasn't because of any of our own doing. We came here, lived an upper middle class lifestyle, and came from the upper class of Jamaican society, and yet and still we still struggled. So for my Black American brothers and sisters, add all of those nuances to not explain away or to justify the racism and the anti-blackness that we're seeing from foreign communities of color, but to explain it so that you understand where it's coming from. Foreign people of color are deeply envious of Black Americans and the privileges and the liberties Black Americans seemingly have here in the United States. And yes, they full well know that those privileges are always at risk of being taken away by white patriarchal structures, because these foreign communities of color are subject to those same structures abroad. They know that. The issue is that unlike Black Americans, they don't have the balls to stand up to those patriarchal structures. And that's another element of the envy. Something that my Black American friends have taught me, a phrase that I carry with me everywhere, is that closed mouths don't get fed. Black Americans fully understand that and have understood that from day one, which is why Black Americans were marching, protesting, boycotting, burning down slave plantations, making speeches until rights that where they should have been born with were given to them almost by force. Black Americans were not afraid to stand up to white patriarchal structures and white supremacy, and still today stand up to white supremacy in ways that foreign communities of color are just too afraid to do. And those foreign communities of color are also envious of Black Americans' bravery for standing up to white supremacist structures, and then in turn being rewarded with rights and liberties for standing up to those structures. Unfortunately, this is all just another version of high school. It's all just another version of schoolyard bullying, and foreign people of color are just very deeply envious and jealous of the privileges they think Black Americans have in the United States, and how Black Americans are born into those privileges, and also the ballsy bravery and courage that Black Americans have in demanding that those privileges, those rights, those liberties stay in place.
Wow, that is such a great conversation. I think it is good for us because those whites are speaking by themselves. There is no one who has come to really impose those kind of narratives on them. They have done their research and they have found it. And I can tell you, melanin is very important. There are many aspects within which this melanin has really helped humanity. And the Black people are quite lucky to have this pigmentation. It has some major functions in the body and in the entire biological infrastructure that really makes it necessary to exist or for humanity. So what does melanin help us with? There are certain aspects that people might talk about in a casual manner, but then it doesn't really need casual talk. This is something that has been proved scientifically, and there are a lot of research that has shown that melanin is very, very important and it needs to be there for humans. So some white individuals believe racism stems from jealousy towards Black people due to their higher melanin levels. They argue that melanin, the pigmentation responsible for darker skin, is not just a physical trait, but a source of biological or even mystical advantages. These theories often claim melanin enhances physical abilities, resilience to environment stressors, or spiritual connections, leading to envy among those with less melanin. Melanin is critical in nature as it protects organisms from ultraviolet radiation. In humans, it absorbs UV rays, reducing skin damage and the risk of skin cancer. For populations in high sun regions like Africa, higher melanin levels provide an evolutionary advantage, allowing better survival and reproduction. Beyond skin, melanin is present in the eyes, hair, and brain, contributing to functions like vision and neural protection. Its role in thermoregulation and camouflage in other species further underscores its importance. In addition to UV protection, melanin helps regulate heat and acts as a natural shield against oxidative stress caused by free radicals. People with higher melanin levels tend to show slower visible aging in their skin because the pigmentation preserves skin elasticity and reduces damages from sun exposure. This contributes to healthier skin over a lifetime and explains why darker skin tones are often more resilient against environmental damages. So it is scientifically proven that black people have this melanin that is really giving them an advantage over survival in different geographical locations, because if you live in areas where there is high levels of sun radiation, then you probably would want UV rays to be protected, because there has been that research that really links UV rays to skin cancer, and therefore if we have this melanin, it helps us in protecting us in a greater way. Melanin also plays an important role in neurological health. Neuromelanin, found in specific regions of the brain, is believed to help protect neurons from toxic metals and oxidative stress. While research is still ongoing, this protective function suggests melanin's importance extends far beyond the skin, influencing both physical and mental health. Thus, it is more than a pigment. It is a malfunctional molecule essential for human survival and well-being. So looking at its presence in the brain, this also tells you that it is not just something that can be wished away. It helps you in many, many ways. For people with lighter skin, particularly whites, lower levels of melanin means reduced natural protection from UV radiation. This leads to higher risk of sunburn, premature skin aging, and skin cancers. As a result, many fair-skinned individuals may desire the protective and aesthetic benefits that come with higher melanin levels, often expressed through tanning, spray tans, or skin darkening products. The longing is both health-driven and influenced by beauty standards that prize glowing or even toned skins. Ultimately, melanin represents both a shield and a symbol. Its importance in protecting human biology underscores why evolution favored darker pigmentation in high sun regions. At the same time, its cultural and aesthetic appeal explains why lighter-skinned individuals may seek higher melanin expressions. The desire for more melanin, then, is not just about appearance. It reflects an underlying recognition of its profound benefits for health, resilience, and vitality. So, melanin is really important for humans, and therefore, if you are dark-skinned, I've seen most Africans, ladies, coming out and starting to use skin lightening products, which are also laced with heavy metals that are very harmful for the skin. So this education needs to be passed for us. And every girl of an African descent must understand that that dark skin that God has given you has a purpose for it. There is evolutionary advantage of having that pigmentation in your skin, and it really helps you be who you are and achieve each and everything that you need to achieve. So as a black person, I believe it is quite important for us to really embrace ourselves in the best way possible and really know that we are people who are created by God for a specific purpose. So that is it for me today. Share your thoughts down in the comment section, and if you're watching us for the first time, please remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share. Thank you, and let's meet on the next one.